And this is Ed. As you can see, I'm here today, Global HR Business. And that's the name of this broadcast. And it's all about the business of HR. Now, what is HR? We have experts here, Dr. Ken Lloyd, and also Paul Falcone. And well, everybody's a people expert here. Paul Falcone, what does HR business, global HR business, mean to you today in your current life?
Well, my current life is a different question, Ed. I've been in corporate HR for about 3 decades. And as of about a year and a half ago, I started doing consulting, but I'm spending time with companies now, going through what's going on in their lives. And there are a lot of challenges. We're still in this post-pandemic reintegration phase. So we're still trying to build the plane while we're flying it. And I think that the topic today couldn't be more timely. It's fascinating. There's so much good stuff going on. There's so much momentum, but we have to keep it going. So that's the purpose of today's podcast, and I'm looking forward to participating.
Okay, everybody, check out when you can, paulfalconehr.com. Paul is a mentor to me and also an advisor and more. And so thank you. We had a great conversation just yesterday
We
about
did.
about delegating and how it's different today. And it's different because of not old people like me, but because of younger people, and they have a lousy attention span, and they're always doing digital things, right? So,
Yeah, but when you make it part of their career and professional development, it was what we talked about, Ed, was, people see it in their best interest and they're building muscle in the area. That's fine. And it's a good thing for the manager and the employee to bond over while they're doing this period of implementation and delegation. So there's a lot of positive stuff that comes from it.
Dr. Ken Lloyd, in addition to jerks at work, you have expressed an interest to discuss the pay inequity of male and females in the offices today. Why does that happen, and why doesn't it just end by like today,
Yeah,
8 o'clock? It's over.
we're always asking ourselves that same question. Uh, there's so many factors behind it, ranging from discrimination to hiring practices, company operations. It's very interesting now that employers are under very different guidelines in hiring. It turns out that point was an area where salaries for males versus females were being differentiated. In the past, an employer would say to a prospective candidate, well, tell me about your salary history. How much are you making right now? And the problem with that is that with women being paid 82 cents on the dollar on average, will come in oftentimes at a lower salary. And let's say a position was, well, we'd pay $100,000. And a female applies and she's making 82,000, they may offer 88,000. That's all gone. Companies now are required, certainly in California and many other states, to post the salary range on a particular position to have it intact and in place. And they're not to be making pre-employment inquiries, certainly of the candidates, regarding how much money are you making right now. So that's helping to deal with it, as well as various reporting requirements by the government and company internal analyses and surveys conducted by HR teams to make sure that we are engaging in real pay equity across the board in the company. But it just needs constant vigilance out there, and it still remains an important topic.
Thank you, Dr. Ken. We'll get back to you, and I certainly welcome you to jump in anytime. Kim Congdon is a long-time friend, multi-time speaker on our programs. She's in LA, has recently retired. Are you retired now from nutrition?
Yeah, I'm retired from nutrition.
Yeah.
I am doing some consulting here and there, but more on a part-time basis rather than full-time. I wasn't sure, to be honest with you, because it's like, well, we'll see. But it's working out really well to kind of have that flexibility and not spend 60, 70 hours a week working. It's good for me.
Yeah, good for you. And so the 3 Ps, tell us about the 3 Ps.
Yeah. So the 3 Ps, P3 is my consulting company. And it's really about, if you focus on the people, develop them so that they can optimize their performance, then profit naturally follows. And that's my philosophy and my approach to helping people, helping companies be the best that they can be. Because when people forget and take their eye off the people and they focus on the profit first, it never works out in the long run, right? Short term, great, but long run, not. So with that, what I focus on is, around aligning the mission and the culture with the brand and the goals of the organization, and really creating a greater connection between that mission and employees. Like, what does that mean to me as an employee? So that's a bit about P3.
Thank you. We're going to go full circle around the screen here today. And Annalisa, how is your business going these days?
Okay, so yes, I'm about to launch actually locally. I'm about to get out and go out and launch 15 Minutes of Mojo, pop-up pep talks for companies, just to just instill a little bit of mojo, motivation, and joy and high morale into businesses. Just for nothing, just for the heck of it, just because I love to do what I do. So that's what I've got planned for Make Your Mark. People ask me,
Mark. That's the name of your business. Make Your Mark, MARQUE.
It is, Ed, and people do ask me, why do I spell it that way? Because some people confuse it with marquee, which has got 2 E's on the end. But I have had it pronounced marquee. I have actually been approached and asked if I could quote for wedding marquees, but I do explain, obviously, I don't supply those. Make Your Mark. It is car enthusiast. If you're a car enthusiast, you'll be familiar with that word and that spelling. It comes from the French for name or brand, and basically it's a car manufacturer, but it's become synonymous with high performance prestige cars, cars that enlarge you, that have that little extra something special. And ultimately, I spell it that way because it's about legacy. I say that anyone can make their mark. Anyone can make a mark. You can make a smudge, you can make a blot, you can make a black mark. You might make a good mark or a top mark, but a mark, MARQUE, is always a top mark. And it's going back to the French definition of it, it's your name. Okay, it's not just the name of your brand, it's your reputation. And that's what goes before you. So just as the mark goes on the front of a car, it's the badge. You think of a Porsche, a Lamborghini, a Ferrari, a Bentley. It goes before. It's the first thing you see before you see anything else. Before you see the interior, you see the badge. And so people think, when they hear your name, they think, well, is it a good name? Is it a bad name? Is it a good reputation? Is it a bad reputation? And I want to make sure that people are leaving, good names, because once upon a time, many, many years ago, people protected the name, their family name. It was a source of pride to men to protect the family name for future generations. Now we live in a culture where people seem not to care about that, providing they get 5 minutes of notoriety and they end up on the front of the papers. They don't really care about the legacy they're leaving their families. They don't really care about the legacy they're leaving. In terms of the workplace, it's about making people see that legacy is not what you're going to leave in 60, 70, 80 years' time. It's not about it's not about the money you're going to leave behind. It's the legacy that you leave every single day on the people that you engage with. And if you are working in customer service, you might be on the phone, that person that you speak to might get one fleeting engagement with you ever. What mark are you going to leave on them?
Thank you very much. We're going to come right back to you, and we certainly welcome you to jump in any minute. any second that you wish. Okay,
Thanks,
Diane
Ed.
Devitt and I are real good friends. She's been a media coach to me since I started this program 4 years ago. By the way, we've crossed, according to YouTube, we've crossed the 800 threshold, 800 productions since
Congratulations.
March of 2020, and still going. It's generated almost 40,000 views on just the YouTube programs. LinkedIn has measured 340,000 the past year, but it's just crazy numbers. So you have to be careful what you're going to say and how you're going to look. And that's called being camera ready. And it's the same thing for being in front of an audience in a live meeting, whether it's a boardroom or whether it's 400 people. And Diane Devitt has been a meeting producer in New York and at the very pinnacle of places. Did you do Radio City Music Hall stuff?
As a Rockette, no.
Just on chorus line, right?
No. Yes, thank you, Ed. No, I've had the privilege of working on some very special events and some very high-end events. That was my company at the time, and now I've transitioned over to trainer and educator and author, and I'm happy to be amongst all of you because my latest quest is to work more and more with HR and people who are in learning and development. Because I produced a certificate program, but before I get into that, it was based on my years with meetings and events, and what I see now, and you're all the experts, is more and more people are complaining that staff are not properly trained for certain positions. And so what I see from where I sit is the thousands of dollars that are being wasted for companies. And more importantly, the credibility of meetings and the impact and the return. So that's a little bit about what I'm here to speak about today and share with you and listen to you. I'd love to get some of your feedback with it because we're in the middle of a major rollout as we speak.
So let's go a little bit deeper, and we can come back to this in a few minutes, Diane. So Diane has created a program, a certificate learning program with lesson plans and things to do. I mean, it's really organized. By the way, Diane Devitt is a professor at NYU, and guess what? Media. Hello. So she is a go-to person. So I want to introduce Melissa. Hi, Melissa. Welcome.
Hi. Hello, everyone.
So, Melissa, how you feeling these days? Better?
I'm good. I'm feeling
Okay, good. Okay, so Melissa is a recognized, and this is not hype, this is the real thing, an AI expert and an inventor, and has been awarded the Genius label by Deloitte. So I don't want to stand you up for all this, so but why don't you tell us in some language about what you do when you're ready to deal with that?
I'm a artificial intelligence technical delivery manager at Deloitte. I'm also a deployment lead, the lead deployment engineer, and I'm a release train engineer. So I have multiple roles at Deloitte, but basically it all has to do with technical delivery and artificial intelligence. I'm currently the artificial intelligence advisor for our own internal Deloitte technology software teams. So I work with, you were just talking about HR. I had been recently working with HR on how to figure out how to use AI to get sexism, racism, ageism, ableism, all of that out of the HR processes through artificial intelligence, machine learning, and automation. So maybe we won't have to wait 300 years for that United Nations gap if we can use technology to solve some of those equality issues that we're having right now. Deloitte has over 400,000 employees all over the world. So I feel like even just that one thing could make a really big difference. So that's one of the things that I've been working on lately. I also advise the Global Risk and Independence Group. So we work with Security Exchange Commission and all kinds of really cool automation and artificial intelligence. But basically, I'm the one that figures out how to use AI in our normal everyday processes. And then I advise the business teams, customers, and then also our technical teams. And I'm in charge, it's a matrix, but I'm in charge of over 100 engineers. And depending on some of the release train engineer projects, it could be hundreds of other engineers that I'm in charge of. So I'm very honored that I have this position at Deloitte. I've been working there for 7 years now and have risen up through the ranks.
Well, this is just really great to have you and your presence here. We're celebrating women who have leadership roles in international business things. And it could be an international business like me. I'm here in San Diego, but I'm actually working with Melissa in Michigan and Joseph in Dublin and Angie in Zurich and Annetta in Cologne, Germany, and Elisa in Hull, England. Where is Hull? How far north of London is that?
200 miles. Yes. So we're quite far north on the coast. It's lovely.
Yeah, great. I've never been there. Okay, Angie Weinberger in Zurich, Switzerland. You've been involved in the mobility industry in various ways. Now you take people to your red couch. Not really, but you you want people to open up and talk about issues and problems. And you're also very active in almost an evangelical way about diversity in the industry, right?
Mm-hmm.
Tell us about that.
You. Yes. And the Red Couch, you can see it here, is a project that I actually started because of International Women's Day 2022, I think. And it was one little project to support more women show themselves in front of a camera and then, get promoted on YouTube. And it has evolved into almost a little, like my little podcast preparation project. It's a side thing that I do. I mainly work as an expat coach, and I'm on a mission to bring the human touch back into global mobility through digitalization. And one of the things I have been working on for the last 7 years, although I've been in business a lot longer than that, is a platform that I can use for coaching my clients, but it also helps expats with developing their next career steps. So what we're still seeing in mobility is a gap between telemanagement and global mobility because of the silo of the organizations. And one of the ways I'm trying to bridge that is to work with career coaching in those transition phases where, for example, an international project ends, an assignment ends, and expats then can use career coaching to plan their next transition and the next step from a career perspective. And I really hope that we're going to get better at linking mobility with talent management and also talent acquisition, because we see a strong trend in mobility that we're moving away from international assignments and more towards local transfers, international transfers, and international hiring decisions. We also see more work from anywhere, workation. We see a lot more mobility everywhere. And I'm hoping to offer a platform for companies and individuals where they can really have a career plan in place in this modern mobility world.
Thank you very
maybe
much.
One more thing is my last book, the Global Rockstar album, came out last year, is about inclusive leadership and building an inclusive team.
Oh, okay. So don't disappear. I know you're busy today, so please stay with us. We want to get everybody in speaking roles. Susan, welcome from New York, Susan Ginsburg Advisory. So thank you very much for all your help in helping me produce and manage properly the recent New York in-person meeting. That is still reverberating nicely.
Good. Yes, likewise. Thank you, Ed. Good to be here.
Yeah, welcome. Why don't you do a minute here about what you're advising companies, in addition to advising me in the New York meeting. You help a lot of businesses. Focus has been in the mobility world, but any business, in order to see things clearly through the fog and get things done, right?
Thank you, Ed, and good to see all of you. And Lucy, good to see you, and a couple familiar faces here. Hi, our keynote speaker from New York City from 2 weeks ago. My company is SRG Advisory. I've been in the business world for several decades, starting out initially in luxury retail. Running stores and running a group of stores, making sure that they frankly had the right merchandise at the right place at the right time. And then transitioned, really for family reasons, transitioned into the global mobility space, where I worked for a spousal career assistance firm and then a global school placement firm. About 5 years ago, I launched my own consultancy, SRG Advisory, and where in short order, I help companies around the world grow their business and enhance the brand. So I have the great good fortune, and I'm proud to say I work with companies in various locations in the world, really helping them as a strategic advisor, in some cases as a mentor, helping them to kind of reflect on who they are and who they want to be. You know, there's so much conversation about the future of work, and I was just interviewing someone the other day, Ed, for a video, and we said, you know what, the future of work is becoming an outmoded term. The future is now. We're living it. We're living the new work landscape. So how do we make changes, reflect on that, and act on that to be a results-driven, outcome-driven company? So whether that is empowering trust, as our friend said a couple of weeks ago, empowering trust, empowering our team, creating a legacy for your own business and brand for the next generation, and building your company through your leadership.
Welcome so much. We're joined from Portugal, Camille, who's an executive with Deal. Does everybody know Deal? D-E-E-L. Hi, Camille. Tell us about Deal.
Hello, everybody. Thank you very much for the invite. Today, I'm not speaking from Portugal. Today, I'm speaking from Brazil, especially.
Okay.
So nice to see you all. Nice to see so many great women here today.
Hola.
So yeah, yes, you get such a great audience today, Edwin.
Well, thank you. This is like the third or fourth program you've been on. In the past on Global LATAM, our Global Latin America series. And I think you've met Stephen Howard in the past from Mexico City.
Yes.
And so you've just been promoted into a senior role at Deal. So now you're even more busy running here and running there. EMEA, Latin America, America.
Let's run the world, like women's, like running the world pretty much. So talking a little bit more about Deal and my role at Deal. So Deal is an HR tech company. We're proud to say that we are like fixing HR problems in the world for companies. And we have many like solutions, products inside Deal to support companies in their expansion growth. So we have global payroll. So we are a company able to provide global payroll support to companies over like 50 countries at this moment. We are also a EOR company. It's an employee of record. So when you want to expand to a country and you don't have an entity yet, and you are not planning to open an entity because you want to expand fast, we have this EOR solution where we can hire people locally or even like sending them there to be like sponsored visas and everything there. We also have the contractor, the ones who works with contractors around the world knows how complicated it is to manage the workforce of contractors, like in paying them, agreements, send equipment, those kind of things. This is also something that you can do. And entity setup. So like, hey, I need to open my own entity. And like we at DU have entities in 100 plus countries in the world. And we know, like, we master this entity setup thing. So now we are also offer this to our clients. So open entities for our clients. So we are like a one-stop shop for any HR expansion that companies are facing challenge at this moment. And my role, I'm the senior manager of the global mobility team, the mobility strategy team. So when I joined you like 2 years ago, we are doing visas, offering mobility support in 4 countries. Now, 2 years later, we are offering mobility support in 14 countries and expanding every day. So this means that it's not only about people like being hired wherever they want to be, but also be able to move, to have a visa sponsored where they want to go, right? So this is what we're enabled to do at this moment, this mobility visa side of the business, to make sure that we are not only hiring, but also allow people to move from a country to another, regardless of the nationality. It's a quick summary.
Yeah, thank you very much. Stephen Howard, I've kept you in the background here on purpose so you can get a grip on the talent mix that we have here. And so Stephen is an author of 22 books. And the most recent one was published, this past year. It's called Humany, Humony. It's a harmony, humany, right?
Well, it's a word I created that combines humanity, and harmony. So it's a combination of all those.
Yeah. So what do you think of all this talent we have on TV today?
Well,
it's amazing.
My hands are not big enough to grip them all. So there's a tremendous amount of talent on your broadcast today. Yeah, no, I just enjoying the conversation, enjoying listening, and we'll contribute later, I think.
Okay, and Joseph Maguire, you're looking at all these faces. Now, once again, Joseph Maguire is an expert at facial truthfulness. And I want to make sure you know Gary Sanger, because he's an executive recruiter at the top tier. So I don't want to put words in your mouth, Gary. You can do a lot better than me in fewer words. Gary.
You're just seeing if I'm still awake. You know, it's a pleasure to be here. I'm a retained headhunter for companies, and I'm reminded of a story, and I hope we've come a long way since then, but in some ways I wonder. I had the, in my past, I served 3-4 years with Citibank. I was a senior HR person that had about 3,000 folks split between Long Island, Manhattan,
Long Island
out here, the claim for, ATMs, et cetera. Anyway, I was in a meeting in New York, and we had a new executive we had hired, and she had not met anybody. And so picture this story. This is about 9 o'clock, folks getting in on the trains. She came early. She's sitting at this large desk, this large table where we're going to have 15, 20 folks. And most of the people in the room didn't know it, but they were going to report to this lady. So this lady is there. She's greeting. She's saying hello. And at least 10 of mostly a male-dominated crowd ask her for coffee. Now, these are high-powered execs, and she was going to be the boss of most of them.
Well, so she wasn't properly introduced yet,
right? No, nobody knew her. I was the only one that knew her. We had been part of the hire, et cetera. So after 10, 15 cups of coffee, et cetera, I open up the meeting, say hello, and I'm really delighted to introduce you all to your new boss. How many of you would like more coffee? She absolutely played it along beautifully. And her ego was as such that, she could handle it. And some of the good old boys didn't do very well with that. I'm just thinking out loud with us here 30 years later, how many company settings have the same situation? And as we think about women in key positions, running companies, et cetera, I think as many of you have talked about brands, you've talked about purpose. Tim, you mentioned 3 Ps. I missed one of them, I'm sure. People, profit, and
performance. Performance is in the middle.
performance. See,
Yep.
I was paying attention. I just think we have a huge opportunity out there when you go and look at a boardroom that's all white, that's all male, that's all old, that's all young, that's all whatever. We're missing out. And
well, I wanted to find people of color, but here we have Annetta wearing this beautiful red, and Melissa's wearing red, and Annalisa's wearing red. So that's the color that we have. And Angie's on a red couch, and I'm wearing lavender. In case you can't tell.
I know, really. Hold on, I have my pink.
Oh, okay.
Opening
day.
I'm a 2-daughter dad, married 51 years, so women are very important in my life. I'm here in Los Angeles. It's certainly a pleasure to be here, Ed. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Gary is a member of my club. It's called the Global Press Club, and we'll talk about that later. Thank you very much. I've got an itchy nose and a cold that won't go away, so I'm sorry for scratching my nose. Lucy, you're a business immigration attorney, right?
Yes, I am. Business immigration, principal and founder of my own immigration law firm. I'm based here in New York City. I do deal with a lot of, I do primarily companies, startups, small to medium-sized companies, individuals looking to move to the States. I offer them non-immigrant, immigrant advice. Just finished a huge deadline. The H-1Bs registration was complete on Monday. Selection started trickling in this morning. Everybody's very anxious, trying to manage everybody's expectations. So it's fun times in the immigration world, and filing fees are going up on Monday. So a lot of interesting things happening.
Really?
With
so Lucy, thank you very much for being involved in the recent New York event. And it was really nice to bring you together with the others. And it was all because of our mutual friend in Spain, Inigo.
Yes, and actually Jana is here, who I also met in Amsterdam at a global mobility conference. So it's good to see her here as well, and actually good to see Susan, who I met in New York as well.
Yes, yeah. So Jana is behind the scenes today, but she's in Rio de Janeiro, and Johanna is in Sweden. And so thank you for being there in the background. Joseph, when you look at all these beautiful faces, you don't see any problems, do you?
None whatsoever, Ed.
Good
all
answer.
These, and when you look at all these saintly visages, what could you possibly find to be a problem? No, it's a joy to be back, and thankfully I've had the pleasure of connecting with several of these very distinguished people. And I don't say nice things for the sake of it, by the way, but I've had the pleasure of connecting with and engaging with several of these wonderful people over the last several months, and it's always so informative to listen, because there's so much wisdom in this room. Not just experience, but wisdom people have actually gained from their experiences. And there's a wonderful humanity. And that for me is something that I'm seeing in my work, that we're increasingly being called on to be more human together. I know Melissa is working with AI, and it's not to put that down in any way, but the human dimension is becoming more and more important. And that's really what I'm about. Like, we can talk about reading faces and body language and all of that, but the only value to it is in connecting. is in building relationship and communicating to the best of our ability as humans. So whether we're in the virtual space, whether we're meeting face to face, it's all about that human dimension, but bringing out the very best of ourselves and sharing that and communicating with clarity.
So Gary Sanger, being at the top level of retained executive search, this resonates with you, doesn't it? Understanding facial awareness.
Well, I think body language, facial awareness, I am struck from time to time when I'm trying to get acquainted and get to know a key candidate for an executive position. And I hear words of one flavor and I see body language of another. And I call it out. I try to understand it. And if the words say yes and the body language says no and heck no, I'm a farm boy from Idaho, so I never have any trouble in terms of just trying to call it out and try to understand the elephant in the room. Because if you are giving the empty words, but your body language is telling something different, I want to understand that. I really want to understand that. Those of us that ever do any hiring, you're trying to get win and win. You're trying to get win for the person and win for the company. And I find that fascinating. Mr. Maguire, I would love to learn more as to what your screens are as to how you read that.
Well, I look forward to our next conversation, Gary.
Yeah, that's great. All right, this is the global meeting room. This is the win. Okay, please.
Yeah, if I could just jump in on the whole importance of the whole facial recognition and the nonverbal. My daughter has something called social or pragmatic communication disorder, which means she can't read nonverbal cues. And it is so debilitating that it's very, very difficult for her to talk to people at all, because you've taken away every kind of cue that makes a human feel comfortable in communicating. And so, those nonverbal cues are exceptionally important and exceptionally powerful. So I just, different take on it, but just like in my own life, how I've seen Gary, aside from the professional, how important, the facial is. So
is it only the body clues, Kim, or is it also tonality and vocal clues that she can't pick up on?
Yeah, it's all of it. But it's primarily like you'll see her just staring at your face, like trying to see if you're, and then she'll say, "Are you mad?" I'm like, "No, I was just saying let's have dinner," So and she typically will have a problem interpreting it.
Just to jump in here for 1 minute, everyone, I did extensive research over many years, and I actually produced a summit back in 2016 called Sense Up on the sensory communication, because it's 85 to 90% of our communication is nonverbal. It's not just, and I'm fascinated with facial. Joseph, I've been following it for years, Asian culture, this and that, but there's so much more. If you realize that just that tap I just did is 11 million neurons being processed. So when we stand in front of another person, we don't have to say anything. We will feel it, we will smell it, we will taste it, what their sincerity and their authenticity is. And Gary, do not forget where you came from. Might be Idaho, but you worked in New York, didn't you?
I have a bad vision on that particular part of it. It's not coming through very clearly on my screen.
There you go. Anyway, so Kim, I'm happy to connect with you afterwards and share whatever I can.
Oh, that would be wonderful. And honestly, that stat, I jotted that stat down because it certainly doesn't surprise me. And one thing that even, really puts a bow on it is that my mother-in-law doesn't speak English. And of all the people, like that's who she feels most comfortable with, because they're just working hard to communicate in a non-traditional way. But yeah, that'd be great. I'd love to connect with you.
Kim, can I jump in here and ask about what kind of lessons your daughter is taking to work around that incapacity?
Yeah, so she does work with a speech therapist, and it's really interesting because I'm like, a speech therapist. It's not really, her language skills are actually excellent. Her verbal command of language is excellent. But it's role playing with, oh, okay, what do you think this expression means? What do you think this movement means? What kind of tone, to Stephen's question, like, what is this tone conveying? So those are the kinds of things that she's spending time on with a speech pathologist, basically.
Kim, can I ask a question if it's not too personal?
Hey, I threw it out there, so yeah, absolutely.
Oftentimes when people have what you're talking about in terms of your daughter, they'll have simultaneously some very deep gifts in other areas. Is she particularly gifted in whether it's art or music or recall? I'm sure there are some very special qualities on the other side that she must possess. I'm just curious what those might be.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. She is, first of all, she's very, very empathic with animals, and she's a whisperer of all animals, not just dogs or cats, but of all animals. And also, yeah, absolutely, from an artistic standpoint, she creates just beautiful things, whether it can be from drawing to painting to collages to, I don't even know what some of the arts she would call, but amazing. And also, like I said, her verbal capabilities, which might seem, like an oxymoron, are in the 99th percentile. It's just how to use it is a little challenging. Thank you for asking.
I also have I guess the opposite of that. I am overly good at reading cues, and it came in handy one time. My father-in-law was in the hospital, and he had a tube in his throat. And for months, he had been trying to express something to his family, and nobody could understand him. I went to visit him, and all I did was read his lips and told everybody what he had been saying. He was amazed that I could read his lips, but no one else in his own family could do that. So people have a hard time reading facial cues, even if they don't have syndromes like that. And some people like me are oddly good at it. But I also have a daughter, she has severe dyslexia. And it was sort of what you were talking about, the specialties. When she was younger, she couldn't even read the word "the" until she was in 5th grade. Now she's almost finished with a master's degree, and she's soon to be a doctor. But she is a genius at 10 other things. And you would never know that she had dyslexia. So I find that very curious that your daughter sounds like an amazing artist, and has other things. So that's great to hear.
This isn't, sorry, Ed, just one more thing,
No,
if you
it's
don't
okay.
mind. It's an interesting conversation because from where I sit and I look at so many of you who are in HR and dealing with so many things, but we all deal with people. I had an accident last October 19th. I passed out at the airport in Las Vegas. I blacked out, and I was in the trauma for 4 days. And then I was in the hospital in acute rehab for 2.5 weeks. And I taught the nurses some things. And I share this with this group because thankfully for 2 things. One, the sensory research I did, but Melissa too, what you're bringing up is there are ways that we can train our intuition and being so aware of our sensory self that we trust that gut voice. But what helped bring me back to life when I was, and when I say out of it, is that I always travel with my essential oils, and I don't mean to go off in this direction, but scent is a language that our body speaks. And this is, Kim, to your daughter's intuitiveness with animals, is think about how heightened the sensory, whatever you call it in animals is. I mean, that they can hear, they can see, but beyond human capability. So I started to smell peppermint. It brought me back to life. I started to ask for crayons and a coloring book so that I could see color. And I speak to you firsthand as someone, I couldn't speak. I didn't eat for 4.5 days. And my fiance said to me that the nurses were checking on me every 5 minutes. And those nonverbal ways of communicating with me and listening to, and again, this is my training in yoga, listening to sound therapy, by the way, which you can Google, sound therapy for brain damage. And I plug that in, and those are the things that, you know, so when you speak about developing people and performances and things, there's that very woohoo side of things that is real. So, and it helps with a lot of problems that people have. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah, thank you. Diane and I did a TV talk show on travel safe, and we zeroed in on this traumatic experience that she had, and she wanted to use my microphone to record that for the business traveler. So that's available, and I'll make sure everybody gets that. So Melissa, can AI be helpful to some of these situations that we've just heard from?
So, you know, I love to invent things. You have me going crazy with this again. So I recently worked with a doctor. His name is Dr. Harvey Castro, and he reached out to me. He was reading a book. He wrote a book on healthcare and AR. And everybody knows the Apple Vision Pro glasses that just came out. And he wrote this book to figure out what we can use for this. So I added an invention to his book. And it was about using the Apple Vision Pro glasses to check your ocular movements, which are your eye movements. And by doing that, we could possibly predict anxiety, depression, PTSD, other issues. So her daughter may be able to use something like that with AI to read other people's cues that she wouldn't normally be able to read. She could use technology to help her read cues. One of the applications of it that I had been thinking about was, you know, I was a military spouse for 21 years. And I was thinking about the veterans that are out in war and their helmets, and how we could use ocular movements through the same type of technology to predict when they could be getting PTSD, or predict when their level of anxiety, terror is too much. Then we could pull them out of the field, get them some, you know, psychology help. But there's so much that's read by your face and your movements, and even just me, like smiling or frowning, that could be read with Apple Vision Pro.
Fascinating. Whoa, this is really something. Hey, everybody, meet Heather, who just came on from London. Heather is an expert in the dual career dilemma and has solutions. Recently did a research report. Well, you do. So why don't you do about a minute about that research report and about yourself, and then participate in the dialogue here.
Yeah, I've something clashed with something else. Diane, I just came in at the end. I'd love to hear more about the story. So sorry. So many faces I've met once already previously, and Ed, of course, and Susan Ginsburg, my long lost mentor who I've known for a decade and a half. So lovely to see you all. I'm so happy to be here today. So I took a year out to do a research project for REA, and it spans 4 continents. We've got 34 participants, and it's multi-generational. And it was very insightful because I combined big data. We all talk about big data and metrics, and wow, let's measure it, let's measure it. But what are we measuring? And are we really measuring people's emotional experiences? Metrics are fantastic. I love you all, but let's amplify those metrics and make them real, make them count. So what we did was we designed an add-on part to the big data, and we went out and we talked to our families, and we gathered the most amazing, rich, context-rich data. And that data showed us that what people really want is human connection. They want human connection in the context of a very, very emotional roller coaster experience of moving. And then what we found was that policy, so let's look at what's missing, right, in the talent mobility space, what's missing in policy. And what we found was, using the process of thematic analysis that was very rigorous, what we found was that the psychological contract with the deep expectations of what is expected from policy, there was a mismatch. Okay, so what do we do about it? Coaching. We've got some brilliant coaches on here today and advisors. You guys all know this, but coaching actually mitigated the potential breach of a psychological contract that was missing from HR policy. So in a nutshell, I've done my best to keep it very short. So in a nutshell, that's what the study showed. And it's just amazing. I'm so excited about it. And I'm at the moment it's already won 1 award, and we're on track for a few more awards perhaps this year. So fingers crossed. But it's amazing. It's really ignited my passion for research again, but the right research. Let's measure what's valuable. Let's not just measure something that's linear because it enables itself to be measured.
I'm going to jump in here and put the plug in. So Heather is going to be featured on April 23, along with Yvonne Kwa from the World Bank, in my live in-person meeting in London, being produced at the headquarters of HSBC Global Bank. And that is going to be an all-star event. We're rapidly selling tickets. It's going to be a sellout. And it will not be broadcast, so you have to buy a ticket and get on a plane and come to London. But anyway, that is going to be a terrific experience. Your partner in the Dual Career Dilemma and Solutions session on April 23 will be Yvonne Kwa, who's from Washington, D.C., and well, originally from Singapore, but in Washington, and she's the advisor and trainer for the World Bank's Family Network, which has to do with these high-powered couples that work for the World Bank around the world. And the dual career issue is explosive and full of risk and problems. So, Susan, do you and Heather want to chat about this for a moment with Angie Weinberger also?
Well, first I have to say congratulations to Heather, and always wonderful seeing you on the great research that you did with REA, and winning this very well-deserved award. And having had the great pleasure of working with Heather for many years, I think it was 14 plus years, I share her passion for the importance of supporting dual career families on the move. Frankly, dual career families, even if they're not moving, in today's turbulent, unpredictable economy, the importance of enabling legislatively, as well as career-wise, dual career families to support themselves and their families, and ensuring that there are opportunities for women and men to, across all generations, to find suitable work where they can feel that they're adding value and make a contribution to their community, to their family, to their world. I think is vitally important, and I applaud Heather for the great research that she's done, and I'm confident that with people like yourself, Ed, this message will continue to go viral.
Yeah, Angie Weinberger.
Well, Heather, thank you so much for what you just said, and thank you, Susan, as well. You were not here when I introduced myself. I totally agree with everything you just said. I've been working on a platform to help expats and expat partners with their career coaching. So it's like an online career coaching platform in addition to like a real human coach like me. So I'm completely on your wavelengths here. And I wanna also bring in another point that we haven't really discussed yet today, because this is about women in leadership. One of the things in global mobility we need to really get better at is quotas in terms of bringing more women and also rainbow talent and marginalized talents of all kind of diverse groups on assignment and into international projects. So I've just had a interesting podcast episode of Love and Relo on Tuesday where I was talking about it, because an international assignment or project is so important for leadership development. So if we cannot get a better quota, for example, for women on assignment, we will never get the leadership quotas that we would like to have to see in the board, for example. If we want to have 30% of women on the board, we also need to have at least 30%, if not 40 or 50% of women on assignment. That's women as an example here. Yeah. So this is something we tend to forget a bit. We need to get better at helping all of those marginalized groups to get into the selection on those talent programs. So it's just a point I wanted to raise today.
Yeah,
Thanks.
Annalisa.
Yeah, it's a really good point that Angie just made, and yeah, I do agree, and I think as well, this is where here in the UK, I was reading that the Erasmus project, which gave young people here in the UK the opportunity to travel, learn abroad, and also to give them access to research as well in Europe, is actually closing because they can't get the funding, and I think it's a real tragedy for young people here. And again, they're really suffering because of us leaving the European Union. So that opportunity to travel to work on things abroad, to broaden their mind, to broaden their experience, and just to learn from other cultures is so important to all round, the all round development of the self, of the human being. And unfortunately, it seems to be being denied young people and young women, as Angie said, in the workforce as well. And we somehow need to address this and give them the opportunities to do that.
So I want to ask Ken Lloyd and Paul Falcone and Stephen Howard and Gary Sanger and Joseph to think of, as guys and allies of ladies, us guys, how do we reach out to Jeff Bezos' ex-wife, who's given away all this money to all these different things, and get her to recognize what Annalise is talking about? How do we do that, guys? Gary?
I had the pleasure through a very close friend of both my daughters, who happens to be Black, happens to be a great athlete, and happens to be very connected with a marketing client. And his name is Marcellus Wiley. Now, any of you that follow a little bit in terms of the NFL, he's this kid from Compton that happen to be fast, happen to be nice, and happen to be smart. He goes to Columbia, gets a degree, and then has a 10-year career in the NFL. Now, you're probably wondering, what the hell are you talking about here? He's established project transitions, and he's trying to deal with disadvantaged kids in some of the neighborhoods that don't get a lot of opportunity and give them opportunities to excel, give them opportunities to get an education, give them opportunities to move forward. So I've had the pleasure of getting to know Marcellus a bit, asked to be an advisor on his foundation, and I think he's going to go out and make a difference with many thousands of kids. And so as you find the right mindset for the right purposes, screen out the bad guys and go out there. I mean, I'm a farm kid with a chip on his shoulder. I didn't go to a big school. I haven't written 17 books, Paul. I haven't written 22 books, Joseph. I grew up in the, in the survival side in the street. But when we think about whether we think of ourselves as a guy or a gal, I don't know that that's any relevancy here. Where can you go make a difference? Where can you go make a difference and do something rather than just talk about it? I'm really energized by this project transition. And if you get a chance, Marcellus Wiley and what he's doing there, I'm just very turned on to that opportunity.
Thank you. Paul, in your, and Kim, in your backgrounds connected with the entertainment industry, can we think of any charities we could approach? I know there's several, but I don't know anybody involved at this.
Kim, can you think of anything specific to entertainment offhand?
Not specific to entertainment.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. We had, like at Nickelodeon, we had a writers program that was primarily for female diverse applicants into the pool, so to speak. And I think the studios are doing those kinds of initiatives, but I don't think there's one overarching program that the entertainment industry is particularly associated with.
Yeah.
So,
sounds like
yeah, I mean,
one
thing that they, that I put in place at the academy that was for the entire industry was a diversity internship, but not something beyond, once people are already out there and working, and how do you help them traverse and navigate their career?
Yeah. So Annette, in Germany, is there an organization that helps young people, young women in particular?
There are several organizations that support people who want to go abroad. But I do not know if there's any organization who does it on a charity level. So normally you have to pay for this kind of service. And yeah, in general, we are doing a lot here in Germany because in comparison to the United States, Germany is a very small country. And we have countries all around us who speak other languages, who have other nationalities. And so maybe for us in Europe, it is more common to work together with other nationalities. And I really love to do so, and to coach international project teams and to work with them in different languages. And I was just thinking of the time that I was working as a lecturer at a private university. And we had something, it was called cross-cultural communication. And we prepared students before they went to another country. So it was part of the curriculum of this private university that those students spent one semester abroad, and it could be really worldwide, and they really went to places all over the world. And yeah, it was good to have some preparation and not to dive into another culture, maybe a very different one. I'm just taking the Chinese one, to not get a cultural shock, but to be prepared. And yeah, my children as well, they have spent time abroad in different countries. And I as well have spent time in different countries, and it is so worthy. And I realize it with all the teams, if they really combine all their skills from different cultures, really something very new can can grow from this cooperation and from this collaboration. So for me, this is one of the key points, to really connect with people who have another mindset. And when I say another mindset, it's not only cultural, it can also be other religion, or what you said about your daughters. It can be people who have another perception. The most important thing is, and that's what I mean with love and peace in companies, is that I appreciate and value every person as he or she is. And Kim, when you were talking about your daughter, how she is talking to animals, that is such a unique skill. And if we really concentrate on these unique skills that every team member has, we can create something very big. And this is, in my opinion, also something that unites us as humans in comparison also to AI. AI can do several things. What AI can't do is really this, what I call heart-to-heart communication. And if we concentrate more on this, listening and speaking with our hearts, our world can be a very different one, and it can be a more peaceful one. And that's really what I want to bring into this world, more peace. And I know that it's possible, and it's not difficult to do so. The easy thing is really to love each other as he or she is.
Thank you very much. Annalisa, back to you. So in the shows that you and I have done together over the past couple of years, one of the most poignant experiences was when you were on virtual on TV inside our previous London meeting this past December at HSBC, where you responded to a question that I asked you off the cuff with no rehearsal whatsoever about people who are uncomfortable in front of the camera. Now, all of us on the screen right now in this global meeting room are not in that category of being shy at all. But a lot of people are afraid of this little camera and have a big problem getting comfortable. And you took us through an experience. Now, I'm not asking you to do all that again now, of relaxing your facial muscles through dealing with your tongue or dealing with your nose. You brought the house down. Even these bankers were raucous, gave you a standing ovation. I know you couldn't really see that from the TV, but we were in the room and everybody just stood up, and it was great. And that enabled me to go to the tax presentation right after that. And that was great.
I remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah. The poor tax guy. How do I follow that?
Okay, so let's talk about relaxing in front of the camera. And I see Kim laughing. Kim, of those of you who don't know, has experience with the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences. And as you heard, Paul Falcone worked for many years as senior HR roles in the entertainment industry.
Yeah. So actually what I was doing, Ed, was a voice. Yeah.
Yes.
A voice
warm
up. Do you remember? It was actually a vocal warm up that I was doing with everybody, but just to basically relax the facial muscles and just make sure that there was no tension in the jaw and no tension in the tongue, and just to be able to free the voice and speak with your natural voice instead of holding it back with tension and being afraid to let your natural voice be heard, because we can put masks on over ourselves, as Joseph will know, but we can also mask our real voices as well. And it's very easy when we feel self-conscious to pick up other people's, emulate voices of other people around us, and we don't even know that we're doing it. So our voices might have been shut down in childhood, and so we've been afraid to let our voices go. I was explaining on a call that Paul was on just before Christmas on LinkedIn just how shy I was as a child, because I used to get picked on at school, and I came across a class photo where I literally had my arms wrapped around, my legs wrapped around. I was trying to just make myself invisible. And so that blossoming to where I've got today, to release the voice and feel confident enough to speak off the cuff, as you say, Ed, without any rehearsal too. I think it's so important for us to be able to express ourselves, and releasing the voice. We hold on to so much emotion, anger, hurt, humiliation, frustration, lots of things unspoken, lots of wounds that we hold on to in our stomach muscles and in our jaws. And those times where we've wanted to say something, but we clamp down and we get a horrible lump in our throat because our muscles have started to go, but we've suppressed what we want to say. And when we start to work on the voice, all these things can start to come out and open the floodgates, the emotional floodgates, as it were, because we don't realize just how much we're holding on to. And I think when we start to then connect with our real voices is the point at which we start to really blossom, open up, and even connect again to our purpose. It helps us to find our true selves, our authentic selves. So the I won't go through the voice exercise again right now.
So it's listening right here, the neck muscles, right?
We can get tension. I mean, the breath starts, it starts here in our abdomen, in our diaphragm. The voice, it starts here. It doesn't start in the throat. It doesn't start in the shoulders. And a lot of people, when they start to work with voice, and I say, put your hand on your chest or, on your stomach and just feel where the voice is starting, or feel where you're breathing into. We find that they're kind of breathing very shallowly into the chest. And so all the force is being put onto the voice here in the larynx. So it's a question of breathing properly, supporting the voice, but freeing all of these muscles, the muscles in the jaw, the muscles in the forehead, the muscles in the neck. All of these things can tense up, and the tongue, feeling it tight, feeling it tense in the mouth. If it's not addressed, of course, and we keep on speaking with tension, is when we start to get problems, and those problems can manifest, and we can end up with voice problems. So
interesting. Stephen Howard, what do you have to say about all this?
Well, I just put in the chat box that as she was talking, and I often say this in my coaching sessions, that parents spend the first 3 to 4 years of their children's lives trying to teach them to talk, and then they tell them to be quiet and that children should be seen, not heard. And then we go through life, we become adults, we're not sure whether we should speak up or not. And this is part of my philosophy of the human leadership is the inclusion. Inclusion to me is not just racial or gender, but inclusion is also including the introverts, making sure the extroverts are properly participating in discussions, but getting introverts to speak up, creating a psychologically safe team environment where people will speak up. I've seen so often, particularly in the oil industry, where somebody speaks up in a meeting and somebody else will say, yeah, you think that because you went to XYZ college, and they're putting them down because I went to this school, which is better than the school you went to, and all this stuff that happens in the workplace. People stop talking. And one of the things I often say, and I think I said it in the book, is leaders who don't listen and leaders who don't engage their staff to participate will soon be surrounded by people who do not talk and do not engage or participate. So I totally agree.
Yeah. Dr. Ken Lloyd?
It's so interesting. You talk about communicating with others and all the muscles that are involved and things that go on at the very same time. And Stephen just touched on it. Is the critical aspect of truly listening to what others say, to observing, as Joseph and his expertise clearly plays into, the most effective salespeople these days, the most persuasive people, aren't the glad hand, nonstop talking, slap you on the back, going and go. Those aren't the best and most effective persuaders at all. The real gifted persuaders try to listen, understand where the others are coming from, try to dig into what's really motivating, energizing, and of importance to them, building trust, building respect. It's not coming in and telling others, you're saying that because you went to that school, I went to a better school. None of that is really what's effective. Great listening is really so essential to great communication. And it's so funny, they focus on communication, expressing yourself and talking. Yes, but a key component is the other side of it, that we all have to really listen, observe, use the skills that we have to try to really understand what messages are being sent verbally and non-verbally. And just real quick aside, if you look at the difference between a message that's sent on email versus one that said, I could send you an email and say, I think you did a good job. All right, that's email, great. You don't know anything else. You don't see where my hands are. You don't see my face. You don't see my expression, and you don't hear my tone. Because I could say, I think you did a good job, which is different. It's still the same words. Or I could go, I think you did a good job. I think you did a good job. The implication is nobody else did. I think you did a good job. In other words, all that is missing. So it's so much more than words, and really the ability to listen, observe, take in what's going on in that dialogue is really a critical component to all of this.
So Melissa, I thank you for your time here and for sharing. So tell us about your daughter. Is she walking? Everything good?
Yeah, so we were in a car accident in December 3rd. And like I said, she had one class left for her master's degree to finish in educational psychology. And she broke her pelvis straight through in 2 different spots. Now on the MRI, it looks like she's broken half, basically. So she was in a wheelchair for 3 months. And she is now out of the wheelchair. She's walking. She's back to exercising. She's doing wonderfully in her progress. But, another thing I wanted to mention is because she also has a hard time speaking up, she's had a hard time telling people what healthcare needs that she needs. So she switched quite a few doctors. She's been back and forth, and it feels like she's been dismissed for her pain. At first, I didn't know that she broke her pelvis, and they instructed her to walk. They told her to walk. They made her walk, even though she was in a lot of pain. They diminished her. So to even get past that point to get care was hard. But she's done an amazing job, and she is now starting to work on her final class again. And she will graduate with her master's degree in December. And then she's on to be a child psychologist. She'll have roughly about 1.5 years left.
Wow, that's great. What a great story. You people are great. Thank you for being on my program.
I want to tell you something else about what we were talking about earlier. So when you were talking about how important it is for all of you to visit other countries, so I've been like the receptor of that, let's call it, in the US. So the first day of 9th grade, I met a girl who was from Japan. She was an exchange student. She couldn't speak very good English. I obviously knew no Japanese. Within 3 days, I invited her to move in with me. Just by reading cues off of her face, I could see that she wasn't happy with her host family. So we had a Japanese exchange student live with us for a whole year. And then we loved it so much, we had another exchange student from Germany. And we also had another exchange student from Brazil. So I have housed 3 different exchange students from 3 different countries. And what I learned blew my mind. blew my mind. It opens your whole mind up to different cultures, different people. And I would suggest anybody, not even just visiting, but welcome people into your house. Welcome people into your life from other countries. Diversity is a word, but when you bring people in your house to live with you with other diverse nationalities, it's an amazing experience that I wish everybody should have an experience like that in order to open their mind so globally.
Yeah, I think, Melissa, thank you first of all, thank you so much for sharing that, and congratulations to both you and your daughter. But the things we've been talking about really kind of leading back to leaders and success around performance and that kind of thing. There's a thread here, right? Whether it's people's different nationalities, or whether they are disabled or a different ethnicity, it's having that empathy. And then someone had said, masterful listening skills, asking the right questions, quality of presence. I thought that was great. What we're talking about is bringing those three things together in a way that is empathetic to a variety of needs, because we all start with our own experiences, which is the whole unconscious bias piece. And the more we open ourselves to the experiences like you were speaking about, and Elise was speaking about earlier, and a number of people were, the more likely we are to be successful at, whether we're coaching leaders, whether we're developing leaders, whether we're evaluating organizations, whatever that is. It will just help us be that much better. So thank you all for sharing this.
Thank you, Kim.
I completely agree that experience, now I lead global teams. And they all feel comfortable with me because I make them feel comfortable. And I learned that very young. So it's a huge skill in leadership to have, for sure.
Yeah. Angie, did you want to speak? I thought I saw your hand raised, Angie.
If I can jump in.
I would like to say something, but I didn't raise my hand.
Oh, okay.
It goes back to the inclusion part that we have now been discussing. I just wanted to share an observation I made today with one of my clients. And thanks, Stephen, for talking about introverts and extroverts. One of my clients shared today, she got feedback from HR that she should speak up more and be more engaged in debates. And I try to tell her that not every feedback is valuable. It's a bit like some of the gifts that we get for certain holidays. Yeah, some of the gifts we appreciate and others we just put into a corner and we leave them in the corner until we clean out that corner again. And then maybe we look at the feedback gift again and maybe we throw it out and maybe we keep it and maybe we like it in a year or two. But also, I just find it a shame that she's a bright, intelligent, amazing woman. And still, there's the assumption that if you're not extroverted, if you're not showing up, if you're not engaging, that you're not bringing the same value to the team. And I think that is something we need to change when we talk about inclusion. It's not only about accepting everybody as they are, but also accepting that there are different styles to engage, different styles to think, different styles to behave, and that all of these are valuable in an organization. I really think we need to change that.
Joseph.
Yeah, absolutely. There's so many wonderful threads going around the discussion here, and it's been a delight to listen. And that's one of the things I just love doing anyway. But it's been a delight to listen and to feel the warmth and the humanity and the openness that people have been sharing. Annetta mentioned that in comparison to the US, Germany is a small country, but in comparison to Germany, Ireland is minuscule. But if you fly into Dublin Airport, you may, somewhere on the walls, you may see in the Irish language the words Céad Míle Fáilte, which means 100,000 welcomes. And Ireland was known for a long time as the land of 100,000 welcomes. And I'm not sure it applies anymore, but for me, that's one of the core values, is welcoming people. And obviously with discernment, because there are some people better avoided. In my own life, my partner is Chinese. My younger sister has Down syndrome. My older daughter is gay. My nephew is African American. So I've plenty of diversity in my life, and it has continually helped me to open up. And the quote that's wrongly attributed to Gandhi, "Be the change you want to see in the world." I'm looking to apply that to the best of my ability. And some of that means simply listening. And going back to something Diane said earlier, we do pick up on all these cues, the non-verbal cues, that by simply being present with people. And when we are as fully present as we can be, so much communication happens, so much profound communication happens. And when we're conscious in terms of the wording we're using and we're attuned to the people we're meeting, we can build bridges. And this, to me, that follows on from that idea of, it sounds patronizing, but supporting, encouraging women to take their place in the world. I don't mean it patronizing, but certainly for men to be really present and to strengthen our communication and our support and bring our strengths to the table with other men who are maybe not as present as they might be, then that's part of how we can serve. So thank you.
Ed, I'm struck with the analogy of the TV show in the US, and it's called The Voice. And those of you that have seen it, it's the blind audition. And I find it incredible that regardless of he or she, age, training, etc., the blind audition of what they hear. I'm thinking that in any given staff room, conference room, boardroom, if you're not getting input from everybody at the table, if you're not getting that voice, you're not getting that opinion, you, the boss, are missing out. And so where those gems come from, where that opportunity to make a big change would or a big breakthrough, I think we miss out on that. I'm struck with that analogy.
Wow. I'm almost speechless, hard to believe. But so Joseph, let me ask you a personal question, if I may, about Down syndrome. And because that's a very visual problem. And so how do you deal with that? How would you advise us on the screen here to think differently or to think more intelligently about people with Down syndrome?
I'm certainly no expert on the topic, but my sister Rita will be 51 this year. She actually, unfortunately, has rapidly progressed Alzheimer's at this point, so she's not really present anymore. Last time I met her, she did recognize me. The previous time, she didn't. The first thing I would say is to slow down. When we meet somebody with Downs, slow down. We tend to operate at a much faster rate anyway. So it's to just be calm, be at ease, and greet them. Whoever they have. There's so many variations in Down syndrome. There's some who are nonverbal, completely nonverbal. There are some who are very verbal, very articulate. There's some who have qualified from university, some have distinguished acting careers. There's so much variety there. So even there's the visual distinction, but it's so easy to label people and to have expectations based on the label. And when we when we step beyond the label and meet them as people, meet them as individuals, then it's the potential for relationship, the potential for heart-to-heart connection is so profound, so powerful. But it's even not to have expectation. It's to simply be present, meet them, and meet them with a smile, because that's part of what they will pick up on, and make sure that our posture is open. And again, slow it down.
So this is really an interesting thing. Thank you for sharing. So it brings to mind, because people with a Down syndrome they look different. And so somebody, for instance, Kim's daughter, would have that experience. I mean, that is a we're talking about communications, right? Just understanding and then conversing back. And that is a huge problem out there in the world. I know it would be for me. And any guidance at all, if not at this moment, then another time, would be so helpful to many, many people out there from a health and wellness point of view. I don't know what I'm talking about anymore. So.
No, I think you're right. And I think you should just meet everyone like that. Anybody you meet, no matter how they look, no matter what color they are, no matter how rich they are, no matter how poor they are, no matter if they have a disability or not, they all just want you to smile at them and meet them and listen to them, because they're amazing. Everybody's amazing in their own way, even if they do have a visible, a disability. And just appreciation of being human and supporting other people with love and kindness, no matter who they are, because maybe the last 100 people didn't treat them right. But if you treat them right, then maybe that's the next memory they have. Maybe they're not going to think about the 100 people who treated them wrong. Maybe they're going to think, wow, that lady was so nice to me and she doesn't even know me.
This is really a fresh air thing for me. So, Melissa, I know you're such a brainiac here with AI and all this stuff, yet you talk so human. It's wonderful.
Well, I love AI, but I am the human that creates AI, right? So I think that even brings into diversity. We need diversity in the people who create AI to make it's software. It's not human. But you can have conversational AI where it feels very much like you're talking to someone and having conversations with someone. So another interesting thing about AI is people who are lonely, people who are bedridden, people who are disabled to a point where, they don't have any other communication. AI could help that too. It opens up a whole different world of technology uses and different ways for people to communicate with each other. But I think no matter how much I love AI, I love humans more. And I want to take AI to figure out how to help humanity.
Well, that's a good way to end the show, I think. So we have in the background Joanna, who's from Scandinavia, and I welcome you if you want to come visible. She and I have been discussing my first Scandinavian conference, which is going to be on Monday, June 10, in Malmo, Sweden, live in person, about perhaps being involved. My partner and host there is Ava, and she's a senior HR leader, and more about that in coming days and weeks. Interesting times coming for me. Thank you all for being on the program. I've learned a lot. Annette, would you like to sum up and tell us about your business drive? I know you've been focusing the past month or two on building your business from all you've experienced during the pandemic and now going forward.
it's good that you bring this up once again as the pandemic, because when I heard this at the beginning that we are kind of coming out from the pandemic, in my opinion, times are still changing. So we are now going into maybe the times of AI. In Germany, we have the challenge that it's difficult to find skilled employees. So for me, the thing which is really important is to find ways how to kind of what we can do in order to solve things, how we can solve problems and challenges. And in my opinion, we are in this really all together, because we are all sitting in the same boat, we are all at the same planet. And that's why I love to be on your program here and to exchange ideas with others, because for me it's so important to connect to other like-minded people and to share ideas around the world. For me, it really feels like a net from country to country, from continent to continent. And for me, that's what is important. And what so many of you said, that this is really what matters, that we connect to each other and that we exchange our ideas and that we together work on the subject to make this world a more peaceful and more appreciative place. So I'm really very, very happy to be here and to have heard so many great ideas and different opinions. Yes, and at the core, everything relates to each other. So thank you very, very much to all of you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you all for being on the program. Hello, Joanna.
Hi, Ed, and I'm sorry I was playing around here. I couldn't get the camera to work, but I've been listening. It has been amazing stories. Thank you so much to everyone, and especially to you, Ed, because I sort of connected myself here to your show.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Reached out to you, yes. And I mean, my mobility journey started back in the 1980s when I was an exchange student in Seattle. I'm originally from Sweden. Right now, I'm here live from Spain, where I've been working this week, taking Easter days off. And it was really nice to hear Melissa talk about her experience having 3 exchange students living with her. And I mean, that's really what started my mobility career back when I was a teenager, before internet and emails and everything. And yeah, it's just amazing to listen in how wonderful people can be and are. So
That's
thank
really
you for
nice
having
of
me.
you. Very nice of you to do this, and thank you very much. Everybody, I thank you. Let's end this and save some energy for the rest of our day or night. And I thank you all for being my guests on Global HR Business, Global TV Talk Show. It's an honor for me, and I've learned from each one of you.
Thank you, Ed, for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ed.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Ed. It's been
everyone. So
absolutely
great to
fab
see
to be
you.
here again.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Okay, I'll keep you
Bye.
in touch. I'll send you this program, hopefully later in my day today. Take
Thank you.
care.
Thanks.
So long.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Have a great time. See you.
Thank you. Thank you.